I love Navia. She was the Fontaine character I looked forward to the most after we first saw their designs, and her personality in the story made her an instant favorite. I had second thoughts when her element and weapon were revealed, but in the end I went for it. I'm so glad I did. She's so much fun, and she has one of the strongest teams in the game, one which I was very surprised by. We only got a brief glimpse of Navia in the Overture teaser trailer, but in just a few seconds I was completely sold on her as a character. Her design is gorgeous, her dress a cascade of flowing ruffles in black and gold with blue accents, truly iconic, and I was convinced I'd love her personality too. Despite her fancy and refined dress, she's shown climbing far above the streets of Fontaine so she can pose on the roof for a photo shoot, and seems so carefree and upbeat. When she did show up early on in the Archon quests in Fontaine, she quickly became a favorite. She's bright and friendly with very girlish manners, and yet is clearly comfortable in her role as a powerful boss lady and doesn't hesitate to take charge. She's at once a happy rich kid who dresses in fancy frills and down to earth and adored by her people. At first, I did feel a little bit of suspicion that she might have ulterior motives, but then again I felt that way about basically every Fontainian. Those feelings swiftly went away and Navia simply stole the show. I particularly loved how deftly they walked the line of giving her depth without subverting her happy demeanor. She has a tragic past, and at one point I was expecting her personality to be yet another case of someone hiding their pain and putting on a brave face towards the world. Instead, she has emotional depth which comes from that trauma, but for her it's a source of strength. She had parents who loved her and who died young. Their memories are the source of her strength, her drive to do what's right and care for her people, and her determination to enjoy life to its fullest. And this followed through to the end. Even when the worst happened, she honors those she loved in the best way she knows how, by doing her best to make a difference with a smile on her face. It turns out that not only is her design gorgeous, it's also a great reflection of her personality. Lots of contrast, with darkness overpowered by the light, and plenty of frills and flowers which match her girly and upbeat side. Her relationships with the other Fontaine characters, Clorinde in particular, have been amongst the highlights of Fontaine, and I'm always happy to see her show up. When she was finally released in version 4.3, I was pretty apprehensive since she was Geo and a Claymore wielder. While I do like Geo characters, they feel like they're off in their own world playing a different game, and their teams, while fun, are nowhere near as varied. And variety is my favorite thing in Genshin. Claymores in general are a hit and miss for me. At their best, they can feel strong and powerful, but often they feel sluggish and clunky. I think a large part of that comes from subtle nuance in the animation timing. If the character hits the enemy towards the start of their swing, they feel powerful and in control. If they hit the enemy at the end of the swing, it feels horrible to play. Thankfully, Navia's playstyle rocks. Her normal attacks do have a little bit of that wind-up delay which sometimes makes me dislike Claymores, but it's not too excessive, and her speed makes up for it. The core mechanic of her kit, which ties together everything about her playstyle, is actually a passive part of her skill. Whenever a character on the team picks up an elemental shard from the crystallized reaction, Navia gains a shrapnel stack. You can see them indicated on screen via bullet icons which float next to her. She can stack up to 6 at a time. When you use her skill, she brings out her trusty umbrella, which happens to conceal a powerful shotgun. She fires a blast of geo damage at nearby enemies, consuming any shrapnel stacks she has available. The first 3 stacks increase the number of hits the shotgun will fire. Any further stacks give a damage boost, up to 45% when fired with 6 stacks. Note that this shotgun blast is not what you might think of as an AoE attack. Each blast shoots a number of hits, and each hit can target different enemies. This means she can hit multiple enemies at once, but when she does so, her damage is split across the enemies instead of all of them hitting the full blast. Her skill even has a hold version, which sucks in any nearby shards while you aim. And it can cause a ton of damage, especially if you make sure to wait until you've picked up shrapnel stacks first. Mine regularly does 400k per hit when fully buffed. After firing her shotgun, Navia's normal attacks gain a Geo infusion for 4 seconds, along with a 40% damage bonus, allowing her to spend some time on field causing mayhem and building up her shrapnel stacks again. Her skill has 2 charges and a short cooldown, so it's natural in her rotations to use her skill, attack for 4 seconds, skill again, attack for 4 more seconds, and finish up with a 3rd blast of her skill. The charges and cooldown plus her short infusion duration also make her fantastic as a quick swap DPS. Her burst also ties back to her stacks. She calls forth a cannonade, starting with a burst of AoE geo damage, followed by a 12-second bombardment via more geo cannonballs raining down upon her enemies. When these hit an enemy, she gains a shrapnel stack, up to once every 2.4 seconds, and the extra geo application helps generate more crystallized shards. Her burst has a medium cost, but her skill generates a ton of particles and she's usually on field to catch them, so she rarely has energy problems. Her talent priority is definitely skill first, and then normal and burst separately, as you can see from my Navia's talent levels. I plan to triple crown her, but struggle to collect xenochromatic crystals because I refuse to murder cute, innocent pixel animals. Her rotations tend to be burst first, then rotate through her supports to set up their skills while collecting crystallized shards to build up her stacks, and then bring her back on field to destroy all the enemies in no time at all. Overall, she feels incredibly dynamic and fun to play, and she benefits a ton from having a variety of elements in her team. Her 4th Ascension passive even gives her a further attack boost for having 1 or 2 teammates who can apply crystallized friendly elements. So what about her build? Her best weapon is her signature, but I skipped it. Serpent Spine is probably her most popular second choice option, swiftly followed by the 5-star crit claymores like Beacon of the Reed Sea or Redhorn Stone Thrasher. For free-to-play players, she can do well with the Mega Magic Sword event weapon or either the Tidal Shadow or Prototype Archaic craftable weapons. My Navia instead has the Unforged, since she benefits from its massive attack boost, and I had long been frustrated to have a 5-star weapon sat unused in my inventory. Alternatively, the Wolf's Gravestone is just as good for her as the Unforged. In terms of stats, since she wants to burst on every rotation, ER is a priority, though the target stats I've seen talked about online seem significantly higher than what she's needed in my experience, and that's coming from someone who deliberately overinvests in ER for many characters. I've seen people suggest 150 or even 180 ER depending on the team, but mine has only 110 ER and has always felt comfortable, even in teams with no other Geo characters, since I tend to use her skill just before her burst to funnel some particles to her. I feel like 130% would be a very comfortable target. She wants attack, geo damage bonus and crit main stats with a balance of crit and attack from substats. She doesn't benefit from EM, so she's even more straightforward to build than a typical DPS. Her signature Nighttime Whispers artifact set is her best in slot, which provides attack and geo damage bonus, which is boosted further when protected by a crystallized shield. However, after spending 2000 resing on her domain, video on that linked in the description, I gave up on getting her a 4-piece set and settled 2 mixed 2-piece attack sets. She could also gain a marginal boost from 4-piece Golden True, but I didn't feel it was worth the effort. My Navia would likely benefit from swapping one of those to geo damage bonus instead, but the substats I'd have available would be so much worse that it's not worth it. My build overall is arguably heavily overinvested into attack due to her attack weapon and dual attack sets. She ended up with 2.k attack and a crit ratio of 71 to 180. She doesn't need anything more though. When it comes to teams, as I mentioned earlier, hers are much more varied than most typical Geo teams. She wants at least 2 characters who can take part in crystallized reactions, Pyro, Cryo, Hydro or Electro, and the 3rd slot often goes to a Geo character to help generate particles and provide Geo resonance. Zhongli is a popular choice for that Geo slot since he provides resistance shred and extra durability, though personally I prefer either Albedo or Chiori in that slot for their fantastic extra damage, though Chiori suffers a little due to Navia's lack of Geo construct. The other Geo supports don't really work all that well with her. From the other characters, what she wants is buffs, potentially some healing, off-field damage, and most importantly, lots of elemental application. Her premier supports are, of course, Furina and Bennett. Furina provides a ridiculously strong buff along with great off-field damage, while Bennett boosts her attack while providing solid healing at the same time. The off-field DPS characters from those elements can all work well. Xingqiu, Yelan, Xiangling, Fischl, Yae, Beidou, Lisa, Raiden, Kaya, Rosaria, and even Candace are all viable options for experimenting with. Shielders like Thoma or Layla can be valuable due to their elemental application, though when played right, Navia gets so many crystallized shields that they're not essential. Healers who apply those elements, however, are generally pretty useful, especially team-wide ones when you're using Furina. Charlotte shines in those teams, but the others like Kokomi, Cookie, Diona, and even Mika can make a difference. As you can see, there's a lot of variety, so let's just take a quick look at 3 of my favorites. One particularly powerful combination is with Benny and Xiangling plus one of the Geo characters. Double Pyro with double Geo gives 2 of the best resonance buffs in the game, both of which make a noticeable difference to Navia's damage, and Xiangling provides a ton of Pyro application which makes a load of crystallized reactions. Benny's healing combined with the abundance of crystallized shields to make them feel very comfortable, and while Xiangling's damage is lower than usual due to the lack of reactions, overall it does very respectable damage. Zhongli is particularly strong in the Geo slot here due to his resistant shred, though personally I still have more fun when using Albedo or Chiori instead. I also really enjoy her with Furina, Charlotte, plus an off-field DPS. My Charlotte is C6, so her cryo application is fantastic, and her combination with Furina is just perfect. For the off-field DPS in this team, I tend to go with someone who helps extend and increase the elemental auras on the enemies rather than one who might risk removing them. Fischl is a great fit. She provides great damage for the team while helping with elemental application to keep creating those shards. Teams like this have slightly lower damage output, but free up Bennett for the other side of the abyss, allow more freedom of movement for Navia since she's no longer tied to his circle, and remain more than strong enough to beat the hardest content. So that unusual team, which works way better than I'd expected, Navia Plunge. Shen Yun slots perfectly into the team with Furina and Bennett and enables Navia to perform 3 to 4 Geo-infused plunge attacks instead of the normal attacks which usually take up time between the skills. Since she's a Claymore user, these do fantastic damage. 100k per plunge is pretty common, and since they hit a generous area, they deal with mobs of enemies in frighteningly little time while also being great against bosses, and Navia is particularly well suited to this playstyle. Many characters, especially Claymore wielders, take a moment to recover after each plunge attack, slowing down how quickly they can leap to make the next plunge. In Navia's case, however, she can dash cancel her plunge animation much faster than most, resulting in extremely quick cycle of jump, plunge, dash, which quickly destroys everything around her. It's possible that this may be her strongest team. It can take a little getting used to, but it's absolutely worth trying if you have the teammates for it. Navia blasted her way into Genshin, and I've loved every minute with her, both in the story and in battle. She's a top tier DPS with some very fun and flexible teams which make short work of the hardest content in the game. If you like her, but you're uncertain whether you really need a Geo DPS, don't hold back. She gives all the benefits of Genshin's most neglected element while avoiding its biggest downsides, and she's absolutely worth it. Until next time!